Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane Savila Samaha Moha Grahak Rasaika Karmani. Okay, so today we're going to do the summary of chapter 2. So we'll see how far we get, but this is just so we know that we have understood whatever has been covered. Okay, and for this I'm going to use some slides because I think it'll be easier to convey. So let me just go ahead and share that with you. Okay, so everybody can see? Yeah, okay. All right, so now we know we are studying Panchadashi, yes? And this is a text of 15 prakaranas. So each chapter is independent of each other. We have gone through the first chapter. So 1 to 5 is Viveka. You know, it's on Viveka. So all chapters 1 to 5, or rather prakaranas 1 to 5 are on Sat. 6 to 10 are on Chit. And 11 to 15 are on Ananda. So in this way, Swami Vidyaranyaji covers all of these topics. And this is a Shastra Grantha in that it covers all of these 6 things. Jiva, Jagat or the world, Ishvara or God, Bandha, bondage, Moksha, liberation, and Sadhana, the means for liberation. So we saw chapter 1, which is Tattva Vivekaha, the inquiry into truth. And now we are seeing the summary of chapter 2, which is Mahabhuta Vivekaha. So here Viveka means the differentiation of the 5 elements from Sat or reality. So these are the several topics that have been covered. So the first topic is Idam. First topic is introduction. So topic 1 is introduction. And then we have idam. We cover what this word idam or this means. Then we cover the topic that reality has no differences whatsoever. So we go through that thought flow. I'm not going to read these out. You can read at your own time. Then we go into the debate with asatvadis, those who feel that non-existence alone was. So there's a whole section about non-existence alone was, and there's a debate there. Then there's also debate with the Nyayikas. And because the Nyayikas believe that space or Akasha is eternal. So there's a debate about this. And then there's a whole thing about Maya. So it starts to describe what is Maya. And then it goes into the falsity of space, falsity of air, falsity of fire, of water, of earth, and then we come to the conclusion. So in this way, these are all the topics that are covered in the text. So we'll go one by one. So how does this text start? So we must always remember how it started, otherwise we won't know where we're going. And sometimes, because it's so many verses, we lose our train of thought. I'm also just putting that page from there. Sadadvaitam shrutam yattat panchabhuta vivekatha bodhum shakyam tato bhuta panchakam pravivichyate. So that reality, Brahman, which is in the Shruti, in the Upanishads, it can be known. And how can it be known? Panchabhuta vivekataha. When we differentiate Brahman from the 5 elements, Brahman can be known. And therefore, this whole prakarana, this whole chapter, is meant to do that and that alone. Differentiate Brahman from the 5 elements. And this whole chapter is based on one statement, or what we call Vakya, from the Chandogya Upanishad. So Swami Vidyaranyaji, for each chapter, he bases it on one or more statements of the Upanishads. So here it is Sadeva Somya idam agra asit ekam eva advitiyam. And this statement means before creation, the whole world was only existence, one alone without a second. So now we go to topic 2. And Swami Vidyaranyaji, what he does is he breaks down the words from this statement. So the first word that we're going to explore is this word idam. Idam means this. So, O pleasant one, before this was only existence, one alone without a second. So this literally means creation. This literally means names and forms. And so now he goes to describe what this exactly is. What do we mean by creation? What do we mean by this manifestation of names and forms? So the manifestation of names and forms, it starts with Brahman, then Maya, and then it comes to the 5 elements. So in the beginning of this text, there's a detailed description of the elements and what their properties are. So the 5 elements are space, air, fire, water, earth. The subtlest of them being space. So first space, air, fire, water, then earth. And what happens here is that this space has one property. Air then has 2 properties, fire 3, water 4, and earth 5. So as the substance, as this element gets a little grosser, it has more properties. So that's how we know it's grosser, because it has more properties. And as you can see in the text, it also tells us what kinds of sounds are there. You know, there's different sounds. So space has transmitted sound. Space, the property of space is the ability to transmit sound. Then air has a rustling sound and not cold or not hot touch. Fire has a crackling sound and it's hot to touch and it's bright and luminous in form. Water has a rippling sound, it's cold to touch, it's crystal clear, and the taste is neutral. And then when we come to earth, there's a rattling sound. It's hard to touch. It has many, many different colors. It has 6 kinds of tastes. And a smell, it can smell pleasant or unpleasant. And from these elements, several faculties are formed. So from sound, the faculty of hearing comes, right? So faculty means the subtle faculty of hearing, which resides in the physical ear, that comes from space. And therefore, that ear can perceive sound, which is a property of space. From air, what happens is the faculty of touch arises, which is subtle. Faculty of touch is subtle, and it resides in our skin, and therefore our skin can perceive touch. From fire, the faculty of seeing, faculty is subtle, that which is not seen. The subtle faculty of seeing is there, which resides in our physical eye. And therefore, our eyes perceive form or color, which is a property of fire. From water, the faculty of taste comes, which resides in the tongue. And therefore, the tongue can perceive taste, which is a property of water. And from earth, the faculty of smelling comes. And this smelling resides in our nose, and therefore our nose can perceive smell, which is a property of earth. So these are the faculties of knowledge. Then we have the faculties of action. So the same. From space, we get the faculty of speech, which resides in our mouth. Therefore, through the mouth, we speak and we produce sound, which is a property of space. From air, we get the faculty of grasping, which lies in the hands. And therefore, grasping, the hands are able to grasp, which is the property again of air, touch. From fire, we get the faculty of locomotion, which resides in the feet. And therefore, the feet are able to produce movement. And this movement enables us to see things. When we walk around, when we go around, we're able to see things, which is a property of fire. The faculty of generation is produced by water. It's from water, right? And through that resides in the genitals, and through that one is able to reproduce. And then from earth has a property of smell. So what comes from earth is a faculty of excretion, which resides in the anus, which then also produces smell. It produces smell, which is a property of earth. So all of these things have evolved from the properties. And the mind as well, if we go to texts like Tattva Bodha, all the sattvic aspects of these properties, the subtle sattvic aspects, they form the mind. So the collective sattvic aspects, they form the mind. And the mind, it inquires, what does the mind do? It inquires into merits and demerits. And it has three kinds of natures of thoughts: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So this we have seen many times. Sattvic is peace and knowledge, thoughts of peace and knowledge. Rajasic is thoughts of desire and attachment. And tamasic, thoughts of ignorance and laziness. So here, what happens is the sattvic thoughts, they produce merit or punya. The rajasic thoughts produce papa or demerit. And tamasic thoughts, they produce neither punya nor papa. So this is what happens in the mind. This is what the mind does. And along with the mind and that whole inner equipment, there is the ego. And this ego is called ahankara, by the word ahankara. And it is a thought which takes the form of I. So in this I, so for example, when you look at phone, there's no I in the phone, right? But we iPhone. There's no I in the phone. Or when you look at book, there's no I in the book. Or in the property of seeing, there's no I. Or in the action of seeing, rather, in the action of hearing, there's no I. Seeing is going on, hearing is going on, talking is going on, touching is going on. There's no I. So how does the I come? The I is there through the reflection of consciousness, right? So the I is there through the reflection of consciousness. So that reflection of consciousness in the inner equipment, right? In the inner equipment is that ego. That reflection of consciousness in the inner equipment, which has the nature of the I thought, that is the ego. And the ego is responsible for all kinds of things, for the knowership I know. For the doership, I do. For the experience-ship, I experience. The ego is responsible for all of these kinds of thoughts. I know, I see, I do, I experience. It is that which takes ownership of everything. And the most beautiful thing is that Swami Vidyaranyaji said, now look at this entire thing. Look at our faculties of knowledge, our faculties of action. Look at our mind, intellect, ego, memory. Look at all of these. All of these are made from 5 elements. In other words, all of these are actually matter. These are all matter. So let's just analyze this for a little bit. I'll stop sharing this. We'll analyze this for a little bit before we move on. The body is matter because we know, right? The body is made of food, and food in itself is matter, it's elements, right? So food, in food there is space, air, there's fire, there's water, there's earth. All of these are there in food. There's a heat content, water content, there's air, everything is there in food. So the food is elemental in nature, material in nature. And when we eat the food, that forms our body. And that's very clear to us because the more food we eat, the bigger our body gets, right? The less food we eat, the less, the thinner our body gets. So some people then have a confusion about, well, what about the mind? Is the mind also elemental? And is it also material? And the answer is yes. And this is shown in Chandogya Upanishad chapter 6, when Uddalaka Rishi tells his son, Shwetaketu, I want you to do something, recite the Vedas for me. And Shwetaketu recites the Vedas very well. And then Uddalaka Rishi tells his son, now Shwetaketu, O son, I want you to fast. I want you to fast for like 15 days. And Shwetaketu fasts. And after that, Uddalaka Rishi says, now chant the Vedas. Now chant the Vedas. And Shwetaketu is unable to chant. So his memory is gone. The thoughts of his mind are gone. That his inability to chant is there. And that is because of the lack of food. So in a way, it is true, our mind is made of food. Therefore, it is made of elements. Because when we don't eat, we can't really think straight, right? That must have happened to so many of us. And what we eat also affects our mind. So when we drink a lot of coffee, we see how our mind works. And we eat too much food, we see how our mind is so drowsy, is so sleepy, right? So our mind is also elemental. Our pranas are also elemental, right? Our respiration, our excretion, our reproduction. When we don't eat, what happens? There's no excretion. There's no excretion. When we don't eat, we cannot reproduce. So people who are getting pregnant, when they're getting pregnant, they have a certain diet they have to follow. Otherwise, that reproductive faculty will not work. So even our vital airs, such as circulation, digestion, reproduction, excretion, respiration, all of that also is elemental. It depends on the elements. If there are no elements, there's nothing to circulate. There's nothing to digest, right? So our mind is elemental, our vital airs are elemental, our body is elemental, and of course, faculty of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, that faculty, that is also elemental. Our faculties of action are also elemental, speech, etc., speech, grasping, locomotion. These are all elemental because when we do not eat, we can barely stand, we can barely see, we can barely walk, isn't it? So when we don't eat or when we don't drink any water, we can't function. So some people actually faint. So it is a fact, logically, not just because it says in the Upanishads, but logically, we really think about it, this entire thing is 5 elements. It's all elemental. It's all made of elements. And that's the first thing that we have to come to, that this is all Pancha Mahabhuta. All of these are made of 5 elements. So now we form the word idam, right? So idam means this. So this means 5 elements, faculties of perception, faculties of action, the pranas, the inner instruments, and not to mention whatever is comprehended by these through the means of knowledge. So this whole conglomerate that you see here is all elemental, and everything that this perceives, this experiences, is also elemental. This whole thing is meant by this. And let's not forget that this, everything, is an object of experience. And that's why it's called idam. When we say this, it means it's an object of experience. So before this means this whole conglomerate, this whole world, it was existence alone. So now he goes into what was there? What is that existence? You're talking about existence. What is that existence? So now he comes to this word sadeva. Sadeva somya idam agra asit. So sadeva means only existence. We know sat means existence, right? So only existence. O pleasant one, before this was only existence, one alone without a second, or non-dual. Only existence means there was no name and form. No name and form. So before everything, existence alone was, and then creation came. And what is creation? It's defined in Panchadashi as Nama Rupodbhava Srishti. The manifestation of names and forms is called creation. So before this manifestation of names and forms, existence alone was. Okay. Now, here, agra asid. Before this was only existence. Agra means before creation, asid was. So before creation, existence, only existence was. One alone, non-dual. Now he goes into really understanding what one alone, non-dual means. Right here, ekam eva advitiyam. Ekam means one, eva alone, advitiyam non-dual. So it says here in this portion now, verses 2.20 to 2.25, that there are 3 differences that we see. One is called swagata bedha, differences within that thing. The other is called sajatiya bedha, means differences within the same species. So if we take a tree, this is an apple tree, that's an orange tree, that's a pear tree, like that. There's that difference. And vijatiya bedha means difference between this species and another species. So these are trees and those are animals. So in sat, or existence, since it is uniform, there are no differences within it. Like in the tree, there would be the bark, the trunk, the roots, the leaves. In the tree, there would be all such differences. But because Sat is one uniform entity, there is no difference. So let us look at this for a second. When we say something has parts, it has to have some kind of property. So there are 5 properties, sound, right? Sound, touch, form, color, taste, and smell. So when something has sound, then we can say, okay, this is a loud sound, this is a soft sound. There's a different thing. When something has touch, this is hard to touch, or soft to touch, this is hard to touch. There's, this is hard, this is soft. Or this is in this very hand, this is maybe rough to touch, this is smooth to touch. When something has properties, then it has parts. It has parts. But in existence has no properties whatsoever. Existence doesn't have sound, touch, form, color, taste, smell. Existence doesn't have any of these properties. So if existence doesn't have any of these properties, it cannot have any such parts. Then a question comes is, what about name and form? Aren't they a part of existence? Remember, name and form comes after, right? We said existence alone was before creation, right? And creation is the manifestation of names and forms. So if manifestation of names and forms came after, it cannot be part of existence. And again, names and forms cannot be part of existence because in the same way that, waves cannot divide water. Waves cannot divide water because it's only an appearance in water. Names and forms are only an appearance in existence. They're only an appearance in existence. And therefore, they cannot divide existence into parts. Therefore, existence does not have any parts. So it is uniform, ekam. And then existence, eva. Existence doesn't have any other species. So it is not that there is this human existence, and then there is an animal existence, and then there is a tree existence, there's a plant existence. It's not like that. There's not that there's different categories of existence. Because existence is the very substratum, and on existence, all of these things are superimposed. So it's not that there is human existence, plant existence, animal existence, object existence, place existence. No, it's not that there are different existences. It is on existence, all of these things are superimposed. And therefore, there is no other existence. There's no other type of existence. Then somebody might ask, is there anything that exists apart from existence? Well, the only thing that exists apart from existence is non-existence. And non-existence is non-existent. Therefore, there can be nothing else, right? So now look at this and see and make sure it is clear. One alone, non-dual means it is uniform. There are no parts in existence whatsoever. There is no other kind of existence. There's no plant, animal, human existence. On existence, everything is superimposed. And there is nothing other than existence. If there's anything other than existence, it's non-existent. And that is not existent. Therefore, existence alone was one without a second, or one alone, non-dual. Okay. Now, here there is a debate with that asadvadi. So some say that non-existence existed. Non-existence existed. So this goes back to now the Buddhist philosophy. Now some say that when Buddha was silent, some took it to mean that non-existence alone was. Some took it to mean that that existence cannot be described. It's beyond words, it's beyond speech and mind. So whoever, what is being or who is being addressed here is the ones that feel that non-existence existed. So here the Siddhantin, the S stands for Siddhantin, the Vedantin. Those who say that non-existence existed, two opposing things cannot exist, right? So when you say, so you can have a samyoga. Samyoga is a relationship of contact between two existent things. So like this phone and this book, you can contact this phone and book. There can be a relationship, like this phone is on this book, right? There's a relationship there. But you cannot have a relationship between existence and non-existence, right? Because non-existence doesn't exist. So you cannot say non-existence existed. That is a contradiction because one exists, one doesn't. So how can they have any contact, any relationship? Another relationship is what we call tad atmya, where one pervades the other. Like the yellow color pervades this cloth. So we cannot say that non-existence pervades existence. And we cannot say that existence pervades non-existence. So therefore, when you say non-existence existed, that itself, in that itself, there is a contradiction to those terms. So, okay, fine. Now those who, the Asadvadins, they say, fine, there's a contradiction to our terms, but there's also a contradiction to your terms. What is the contradiction? So here, you said existence was, right? So now P means Purva Paksha, the opponent. V means Vedanta. Okay? So you said existence was. Are you thinking that there's two separate things? Existence was, right? If yes, there's duality. You say existence was, there's duality. They're two separate things. And if you say it's the same thing, existence was, then it's a defect in repetition. And so the Vedantin says, no, it is because two similar words are used, but they mean the same thing. Like we say, speech is spoken. A burden is borne. A cloth is clothed. We say things like that. They are similar words, right? But they just mean one thing. So there's no defect in our language. It is because whenever we put a noun, everybody's used to having a verb. Whenever there's a subject, everyone's used to having a predicate. So therefore, we have to formulate these terms like that. Then he says, you said that existence was. Now there's a problem with the statement because was implies time. So there's duality now. There's duality, there's existence, and there's time. So now here, very beautifully, the Vedantin said that the timeless Brahman is communicated with time to come to the level of the student. You see, our minds are in such a way that we need everything in time and space. Everything that we can understand and can comprehend, we always ask, what is it? When is it? Where is it? Why is it? We always try to fit things in time and space. So even this instruction takes place in time and space. And so that's why these words are used. When we say existence alone was before creation, actually before is part of creation, right? Before is part of creation. Because creation means the manifestation of names, forms, space, time. So what comes before creation, you can't ask. Because before itself, time itself is part of creation. So whenever we try to explain Vedanta, there's always a limit. There's always a limit which we cannot cross, because we have to come to the level of this Kala Vasana. The student has this Kala Vasana, the Vasana of time. And very beautifully it says in this verse, Chodyam va pariharo va kriyatam dvaita bhashaya. Advaita bhashaya chodyam nasti napi tadu. All of these objections, they are raised and they are answered from the standpoint of pure duality, Dvaita Bhasha. Because even the teacher and the thought is duality. Teacher, thought, and teaching is duality, right? In real Advaita, there are no questions, there are no answers, because there's no questioner and there's no answerer, right? And that's why in true Advaita, everything just falls silent. In Bandukya Upanishad, it's called Amatram. This Turiyam is Amatram. It doesn't have any syllable. A, U, Ma. They all stand for something. A stands for the waker. U, the dreamer. Ma, the deep sleeper. But that Atman doesn't have any syllable associated with it, because it is just stillness, awareness. And so he says here, so he says, Tadastimita gambhiram tejo na tamastatam nakhyamanabhivyaktam satkinshit avashishyate. So he says, what remains after is this stimita gambhiram, this stillness, this depth that is beyond darkness and beyond light, beyond light and darkness. Anakhyam, it can't be called anything. Anabhivyaktam, it is unmanifest. It is just sat. It is only existence. And therefore, existence alone was. Existence alone was. And there's no problem with that state. So now the Nayayikas come forward. And they are very concerned about space, because for them, space is eternal and indestructible. So how is creation for the Nayayikas? That in the substratum, which is space, all the elements, air, fire, water, earth, they evolve and they dissolve. And they evolve from paramanus. Paramanus is like very, very, the smallest particle that you can think of. So they evolve from that and they dissolve into that. They evolve and dissolve into this substratum of space, which the Nayayikas feel are eternal, and the space is eternal and indestructible. So they said that it cannot be existence alone was, because space is also eternal. The Vedantins said that, listen, you have removed the world from space or akasha, right? So you can conceive of the world, right? You can conceive of space, or you can conceive of space without the world. You remove the world from space and you could conceive of space. Now I have removed space from existence. So I have gone one step further. And then the Nayayika says, but wait a second, I can conceive of space, right? Although space is not something that we can see pratyaksha, not through our senses, but it's illuminated by sakshi, or the witness consciousness. So that Nayayika says, I can conceive of space. I can experience space. But what about sat? How does one conceive of sat? So the Vedantins said, in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, sat is as it is. So of course, sat or existence is there now. It's there now. In and through every experience is existence. In and through every experience, in and through every state, in and through every way, it's existence. But this existence without any name and form, as it is in nirvikalpa samadhi. So the Vedantin says it is there. It is experienced as it is, as one's own being in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And the Nyayika says, but wait a second. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is no thought. There's no thought. So how is it known? Because the Nyayika understands that everything is known through a thought. We know a computer through the thought of a computer. We know a book through the thought of a book. Because there's a thought of the book, and we are able to experience it. There's a thought of the computer, we experience the computer. But in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there's no thought of existence. So how do we know that existence is there? How do we know? So the Vedantin says, this existence is consciousness. We don't require a thought of existence because existence itself is self-effulgent. So this goes back to the very, very important topic that we saw, that we don't need to bring or experience existence as an object. What knowledge does is it just removes ignorance. And this example I gave in the Bhagavad Gita class, wherein there's a sun and there's a cloud covering the sun. The ignorance is the cloud covering the sun. So all knowledge does is it removes the cloud. It just removes the cloud. But it doesn't bring about the sun. It doesn't bring about the sun because the sun is always there. It's ever existent, ever awareness. So pure awareness, pure existence, I'm always there. I'm always there. But due to ignorance, I feel like I'm not there. Therefore, the thought of knowledge has to dispel that. Then I realize that I am. So Sat is self-effulgent. Doesn't need a thought to objectify. Then, the topic concludes with, so what is this Sat like before creation? So this verse is so beautiful. Manojribhana rahitye yatha sakshi nirakula maya drimbhanatah purvam sat tathaiva nirakulam. So Sat before creation is like how witness consciousness is without any thoughts during Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So just as how that witness consciousness is without any thoughts in Samadhi, the microcosmic level, in the macrocosmic level, existence alone was without the functioning of Maya. So if we can see how it is in the microcosmic level, then we also get to understand how it is in the macrocosmic level. And therefore, Sat remained as it is without the functioning of Maya. This is what it means when we say Sat alone was before creation. So now he brings the term Maya. So now he has to define what is Maya. So now comes the next topic, Maya. So what is Maya? So here in these verses, he brings three distinct things. One is called Nistattva, two Shakti, and three Karyagamya. Nistattva means that it doesn't have its own reality. Tattva means reality. So we cannot say it is absolutely real. Maya is not absolutely real because it can be negated, right? It is negated through knowledge. And we cannot say that Maya is absolutely unreal because we perceive it. So it's not absolutely unreal like the horns of a rabbit or like this elephant that you see here. It's not existent. So that's absolutely unreal, right? Maya is that which is not absolutely real, but not absolutely unreal. Meaning, it can be experienced. It's experienceable, but negatable through knowledge. So that's what it means by nistattva. or sad asadbhyam bhinnam, different from sat and asat. And Maya is also Shakti. It's the power of Sat. So just like I am the substratum and I have the power of speech, power of speech. But the power of speech resides in me. It resides in me. So like that, Maya is the power of Sat, and it resides in Sat. It cannot be apart from Sat. It resides in Sat, just like the power of speech resides in me. And it is Karyagamya, inferred through its effects. Means we have never seen Maya in its pristine form. What we're seeing is the effects of Maya. So just like you cannot see my power of speech, but you can infer that I have the power to speak by speech. We cannot see the power to burn in fire, but when it burns, we know that there's an inherent power to burn. So it is karyagamya. It is inferred through its effects. And therefore, this Maya, it cannot be counted as separate. Because apart from Brahman, it cannot exist. It cannot exist, right? So just like my power of speech cannot exist without me, Maya cannot exist without Brahman. So it cannot be counted as separate. It doesn't have its own independent existence. Okay. Now, a question again comes. Oh, where does Maya exist in Brahman? So now please note again, this question comes because the student, once again, the mind of the student is still in the realm of time and space. Still in the realm of time and space. So the student is saying, okay, where does Maya exist in Brahman? Does it exist in all of Brahman or part of Brahman? Because there are such quotations in our Upanishads that, 1/4 of me is this world. Or I created this world and I extend 10 fingers beyond it, like this. So there are such quotations. So this is asked. And so the Vedanta says, in only a part of Brahman, just like the earth's power of producing pots is not seen in all of earth, but only in a portion of it. So the question here is is this superimposition of Maya, is it like snake on a rope, where the snake pervades the entire rope? Or is it like mirage water on desert sand, where that mirage water is only in part of a desert sand? So here it's saying it's only in a part of Brahman. It's only in part of Brahman, right? Just like earth's power of producing pots is not there in all of earth. So why is the scriptures again speaking of these parts? So the scriptures speak of the partless Brahman having parts for the student to be able to comprehend. So the student should be able to comprehend that Brahman is way above and beyond Maya. So the way the scriptures do it is say, a part of me appears as this world. So, which really means that I am above and beyond this world. That's what it really means. But it uses this figurative language to convey that message. Here, Swami Vidyaranyaji gives the example of a painting in a canvas or on a wall. And though the substratum for the entire painting is the wall, let's say the substratum for the entire painting is the wall. And in that painting, there may be human beings, there may be a nice sun, sky, and nature, and water, and animals. There may be different colors, different names, different forms, some living, some non-living. But the point is that they are all in the canvas. And without the canvas, there is no painting. In actuality, when you touch any part of the painting, it is only the canvas. Excuse me. So therefore, the scriptures speak about this just to make us understand that Brahman transcends all things. All right. So now we come to space. Now we're coming closer to home, right? So now he's going to falsify each and every single element, because from Brahman, on Brahman, Maya appears. And on Maya, space, air, fire, water, earth. So the first modification is space. So what is Sat and what is Akasha? Okay. So the nature of Sat is existence, right? And space or Akasha has existence and what we call avakasha, or it has rooms for things to exist and expand. Or we can also say space has existence and it also has sound. Now the question here that we have to look at is existence in space or is space in existence? So when we say space exists, which we say space exists, air exists, fire exists, this world exists. When we say all of these things, what does it mean? Is existence in space or is space in existence? So if we think existence is in space, it's like taking existence to be a property of space. But in actuality, space is in existence. And it's because of Maya that we're not able to differentiate it. We say space exists and we're not able to differentiate that actually on existence, space appears. That's what's happening. So space is in existence. Space is that which is held, that which is a dharma. Existence is the substratum. So existence is the substratum, and on it, space is held or space appears. That's what it really is, not the other way around. If it's the other way around, where we just say space exists, and existence is a property of space, then we will never inquire into this deep truth, and we will never come into the reality of who we are. So if existence is a property of space, it would have to come after space. And if existence is a property of space, it also wouldn't exist out of space, right? So if existence is a property of space, then it wouldn't exist out of it. But it does. It does. So now we differentiate space from existence. So what is the thought process? So existence and space, there are different words used for them, right? Existence word is used for existence. Space word is used for space. And there's different comprehensions. So when we say existence, we comprehend a very, very different thing. And when we say space, we comprehend also a very different thing. And space doesn't pervade every single thing, but existence does. So existence is all pervading, but space is less pervading or less pervasive. In our deep sleep, there's no time, there's no space, but existence is there in and throughout. So it's all pervading. So because existence is all pervading and space is less pervading, therefore existence is the substratum. Because the property cannot go beyond the substance. So for example, gold and the bangle, right? Gold, which is the substratum, is in and through the bangle, the bracelet, the necklace, the ring. But we cannot say the bangle is there in the bracelet and in the ring. It's not, right? So bangle there is like the property. And gold is a substratum. It's a substratum because it pervades everything. What is the substratum on which everything is held always has to be bigger than what is held. So the table that holds the computer has to be bigger than the actual computer. The chair or the mat that holds the pillow has to always be bigger than the pillow. So the substratum that holds everything has to be bigger, more pervasive than what is held. And therefore, space is held in existence. Existence is the substratum, space is held in. Okay. Now what happens? So this is the logic of differentiation, which we have seen in Panchadashi. And it's a very beautiful one to keep thinking about. He says that existence is all pervading and space is less pervading. We saw this. Therefore, existence is the substratum and space is held by the substratum. Substratum is different from what is held in it. And if the substratum is existence, then what is held in it is different from it. So it should be non-existence. But yet space is experienced. So it is called mithya. It is called mithya maya. That which is not there, but is experienced. That which is in actuality not there, but experienced. So therefore, in this way, we are able to falsify space. Space is just an appearance in existence. Okay. So then he brings up this nice thing that though we intellectually understand, it hasn't become firm. So now one more way for us to intellectually understand Maya, mithya, it means that it has borrowed existence. Borrowed existence means existence is not intrinsic to it. Sometimes it exists, sometimes it doesn't. So if you look at space, in deep sleep, it's not there, it's not existing. When we wake up, it's existing. And then when we sleep again, it's not existing. So what is this telling us? That existence is not intrinsic in space. It's not intrinsic in space. Sometimes it's existing, sometimes it's not existing. Therefore, it's actually borrowing existence. Existence is not intrinsic to it. It's incidental. Therefore, it is mithya. So it's not only temporary, it is false. It is false because it gains and loses existence. So this point is very important. It gains and it loses existence. Therefore, it is illusory. It is false. So here he brings up the point that though we intellectually understand it, it hasn't become firm because there are two obstacles. One is doubt. Still, we need to, it's not very clear. If this is the case, he says, keep inquiring and use the Shruti, the Upanishads, and logic. Another obstacle is lack of concentration. I cannot fix my mind on this fact. And so he says, do it through contemplation. What has to happen is firmness will come. So he uses this term in and throughout Panchadashi called Vasayatva. Vasayatva means having made it so firm that it penetrates every single part of me, that I will never mistake, space to be real again. I will never ever make that mistake. So it has to be so deep that I will never make that mistake again. And the knower always sees space as illusory and existence as reality. And wonders also at how we get so obsessed in different names and forms of space. We get so obsessed in different names and forms of space, air, fire, water, earth. They laugh at it. Now, what happens? He says, let's make it very, very clear. So existence is a substratum, space, that which is held. Existence is all pervading, space is less pervading. Existence is independent, doesn't need anything else to exist. But space does need existence. Remember, it borrows existence. Existence is unlimited, unlimited. Space is bound. It's bound because there are some times where we don't experience space. Reality, existence is reality, and therefore space is illusory. Now, he says, do the same thing with the other elements. So we do the same thing with air, or what we call vayu. So air, the properties of air are ability to absorb moisture, touch, motion, speed. This is the properties of air. And the properties that are from space, that are taken from space, also comes to air. Because remember, as they progress, they take the properties of the preceding element. So air will take the property of space, which is sound. So air's own properties are 4. Then it borrows the property from space, which is sound. So you can hear air. Then it borrows the property from Maya, which is nistattva, means it doesn't have its own existence. And of course, it borrows existence from Sat, right? So that's why we say air is. Air is. That isness is existence. So what is Swami Vidyaranyaji's logic? Take all of these things, air, all of the properties, remove existence from it. Can it exist without existence? No. Therefore, it is non-existent. But yet it appears, therefore it's illusory. So the whole sadhana for the seeker is to keep removing existence. Keep removing existence from everything. If we keep removing existence from everything, then we realize that that thing is actually illusory. It's actually illusory. So now, although we are analyzing the elements, in our daily life too, when something seems so incredibly big, remove existence from it and see the lightness of the matter. It's matter after all, right? Then we come to fire. So use the same logic. So properties of fire are heat and light. And properties borrowed from space and air are sound and touch. Properties borrowed from Maya are nistattva, again, that dependent existence, and from Sat, existence. So you analyze fire, right? You analyze fire, analyze all the properties of fire, and then remove existence from fire. And it ceases to exist. Remove existence from it, and it ceases to exist. So fire also breaks down. Here I don't say property borrowed from Sat because this existence is the nature of Sat. It's not a property. Okay, then he says water, right? So properties of water. Taste. Properties borrowed from space, air, fire, sound, touch, form. Great. Properties borrowed from Maya, nistattva. Wonderful. And borrowed from Sat, existence. Remove existence from all of these things, and even water collapses. Then what does he say? He says, now do the same thing with earth. Earth has the property of smell and properties borrowed from space and air and fire and water, sound, touch, form, taste. Properties borrowed from Maya, nistattva, and borrowed from Sat, existence. remove existence, the whole earth collapses. And then in this regard, then he says, think about the whole world. Now, the 14 worlds, Brahmanda, 14 worlds, all the beings in all the worlds, all the different food and drink, all the different places, all the Milky Ways, all the galaxies, all the solar systems, all the planets, all the different kinds of beings. Just think of this whole entire spectrum, how vast it is, and how much it is, how big it is. It may appear very, very big. But Swami Vidyaranyji says only one thing. Remove existence from it. What happens? It all breaks down. Because the substratum of everything is existence alone. And so Swami Vidyaranyji says, now he concludes, he says that the Jivan Mukta is one who's firmly rooted in this non-duality. And this knowledge is deeper than thought. It will not leave, no matter what the physical condition of the body may be. So if you remember in his last verses, he analyzes that, the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha. And he says, what happens here is, who is a Jivan Mukta? The Jivan Mukta, or the one who's liberated while living, is really someone who understands that existence alone is. Before creation, Sadeva Somya Idam Agratas, Ekam Eva Advitiyam. That one Ekam, alone, Eva Advitiyam, non-dual, that alone. And the one who is firmly, firmly rooted in that is a Jivan Mukta. And the one who firmly understands that this world is just an appearance. This world is just an appearance of that Sat. And let that Jivan Mukta, it doesn't matter what happens in the last stages of their life, what condition the body will be. If the Jivan Mukta gets sick, they get dementia, if they get Alzheimer's, if they get all kinds of diseases, it doesn't matter, because knowledge doesn't depend on thought. True knowledge goes much deeper than thought. It has pervaded one's entire being. So even if their brain doesn't function in the last moment of their life, it doesn't matter, because the knowledge is already one with them. And therefore, even now, even here, they are free. What to talk of at the time when the body dissolves, when the body breaks, when the body ends. They are certainly free. So knowing this, Swami Vidyaranyji asks us to be ever established in that reality. And if ever any doubt comes, just take everything that we are aware of, everything that we are experiencing, take it and remove existence from it. Watch it all wither away, and the self remain as is. Ekam Eva Advitiyam. And this concludes chapter 2 of our Panchadashi. So I'm very, very grateful to all of you for giving me this wonderful opportunity to read, to reflect, to learn about who we are. We'll stop here, and then I'll say the closing prayer, and then if there are any questions, we will take. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha Hari Om. Right.